So after your patch pocket is complete, the next step is to seam finish your tote bag pieces. I have two rectangles in my case, and I'm going to do a zigzag seam finish along all four sides. So we turn our width setting to about a 4 or a 5. Our length setting stays the same at 2.5, and you position the fabric as you would an edge stitch so that my stitch is going to be on the fabric, off the fabric, on the fabric, off the fabric. I want to begin like any stitch by back stitching, and I'm going to zigzag again, keeping one toe off as I would in edge stitching. Zigzag all the way around. And when I get to the corner, I ensure my needle's down, I lift, and if it's not quite right, remember you could always reposition and do another stitch. I got it pretty well. Press your foot down. Continue to zigzag all four sides. And here's my finished zigzag seam finish on both rectangular pieces. The next step is to form a casing along the top of my bag. I want to make sure I do this in my situation. I want my bag to be a vertical rectangle, like a portrait on a piece of paper. So I'm going to do my short side. And I know for a casing, I need to fold my fabric under 1/4 inch. So I begin that by getting a little part started. And once you get it started, you really just need to kind of walk along and fold your fabric. You can finger press a little bit ahead, and as long as the iron isn't sitting for too long, you can just kind of do what I'm doing and pull it along with you after you measure. It's a tedious process, but if you aren't straight with this step, your bag will not be straight and will look uneven. I'm going to do this on both sides of the bag, 1/4 inch. I've now pressed each side of the bag under 1/4 inch, and next I'm going to do 1 full inch. So again, I marked it on my seam gauge. I can get it started, finger press a little bit, and then do the same thing as last time, where you pull the iron along to follow you. And if at any time it seems to want to roll further, you can just back up as I'm doing, got a little bit wider, and go over your ironing from before. I'm going to do this on both sides. So I have now ironed the casings for the tops of my bags. And then what you want to do before you sew is lay the bag pieces together and ensure that both pieces are the exact same size. To do this, you want to line up the corners and look at the ends and make sure they are the same exact size. If one side is bigger than the other, that goes back to your pressing, and you need to double check that that's exactly 1/4 inch and then 1 inch. Otherwise, your bag will not be even. So now I'm ready to edge stitch. I've pressed my casing and now I'm going to edge stitch it. But before I do that, a little tip to help me be even more accurate is to place some pins where I pressed to help the fabric stay still. I learned this the hard way on the other side, and I ended up seam ripping. So placing a few pins will help that fabric stay still until you're ready to sew over it. So to do my edge stitch, I make sure I position it so one toe is off this lower folded edge. This is going to allow for the cord to go through this tunnel or casing. So I'm 1/8 from the edge. I need to lower my needle. I've left room to backstitch. Going to backstitch to the edge. As I get close, I can take out those pins that were helpful to me. Making sure I'm nice and straight with that toe just off the lower edge of that fold. All the way to the end and backstitch. And do that on both sides. I've now sewn both casings of my bag, and I like to lay them next to each other to ensure they're even. So this is a good time to check the size of your bag after you've ensured that the casings are even. If you wanted it to be smaller, you could always shorten the ends or the sides and then re-seam finish them. Ideally, this would be decided before, but it's important to always look and reflect on your progress throughout the project and make edits as needed.